Well, good morning. Welcome to church this morning. Well, there's been a lot of talk about soldiers this morning, and it's that biblical metaphor that talks about being an army and being a soldier. And I've decided to keep on that theme, but I've gone with the 11th century soldier, Robin Hood, that kind of, let's just face it, I think I look pretty good in metal, and it was a chance to dress up. So, look, I wanted to take the time to just touch base on recognising that we've enrolled 5 soldiers this morning, but it is Father's Day, and traditionally we do like to speak to our men on Father's Day. So, hence why we've gone with the 11th century, Robin Hood, that kind of era. But I think there's a message when you are in there for us. See, the 11th century, one of the big guys of that time was King Arthur. And King Arthur was a great king. He was a king that stood for justice. He was the epitome of good versus evil. His fight was trying to fight and bring light over darkness. All right? But there was one thing that the king set up really early on. And that's, I suppose, where I come in. And that was the Knights of the Round Table. All right? And the Knights of the Round Table. And look, obviously you can't all wear metal like me this morning. But I'm encouraging you, our new soldiers, our men, and anyone else who wants to be a part of this, I'm encouraging you to think of yourselves this morning as Knights of the Round Table. All right? So we're just going to touch on this morning, and I'm mindful of the time, so we're going to, I want to honour the time. We don't want to be late for lunch. But the Knights of the Round Table, to be a Knight of the Round Table was like, these were like the best of the best of the best, right? These were the guys who King Arthur, they virtually set the culture, set the temperature. They were the only ones, and the reason why it was a round table, and this shows you, because you can imagine, for a king, he is the top dog. And the reason why it was a round table is because there was no head. So the king was saying, we are all on the same level. That's how he saw the Knights of the Round Table. So to be a Knight of the Round Table, you had to stand for 3 things. And men of North Brisbane, this is what I want to encourage you about this morning. You see, to be a Knight of the Round Table, to be recognised as a man of great significance, you had to stand for 3 things. And the first thing you had to stand for is you had to speak truth. King Arthur said, if you can't speak truth, you cannot be a Knight of the Round Table. Now, I would say for most of us, we are past the point of, we know what a lie is. You know, you might have done it when you were young. We know what making up a story looks like. So you might think we can easily tick that one off. But I would say, men, there's still sometimes a gap between the truth and the reality. Because as men, we want to look good. We want to look in control. We want to be seen to be on the right track. And sometimes the truth might reveal that I haven't got it all together, that I have slipped up, that I have dropped the ball. See, sometimes we might stretch the truth to uphold our image. We're not talking about little white lies here. We're talking about adjusting the truth to help self. You know, I remember being challenged by this. And the Lord really challenged me, and He confronted me by owning up to the times when I dropped the ball. To apologise. To recognise that part of being human is to sometimes make mistakes. It's to show that I'm not always bulletproof. You know, there was a challenge about things like, let's be honest, it's easier to say there was a glitch in the system rather than say I made a mistake. It's easier to say, oh, I couldn't leave a message when I called, rather than say, look, sorry, I forgot. It's easier to say, hey, my shout for lunch, rather than say, if only you knew how much credit card debt I had. Do you get the picture? Sometimes we shape the truth to make the persona. And King Arthur said, we need to speak truth. And I believe that that's what God calls us to be as men. To be men who speak truth. There's some verses that follow this up. And in Psalm 15, verse 4 and 5, it says, those who keep their promises even when it hurts and cannot be bribed to lie about the innocent, such people will stand firm forever. So if you can make the tough call early on, you'll be able to stand firm forever. And Proverbs 12, verse 22 says, the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in those who tell the truth. We're called to speak truth. But then King Arthur said, that's not enough. He also said, we need to right wrong. So you need to speak, you need to right wrong. And this has been a big theme for our church this year. We've looked at social justice and the fact that there is injustice in the world. Things that aren't fair, aren't right. And we are called to right wrong, to stand up for those. You know, we probably look at who are some of the greats in righting wrong in our history. We think of Martin Luther King. We think of William Wilberforce. Guys who have righted wrong, who have stood up for injustice. Now, while we may not reach these heights, it would be easy to say, oh, I can't be a Martin Luther King, therefore I won't try. But we can do little things to right wrong. There are opportunities all around us to right wrong. We can join petitions. We can advocate. We can make political statements writing to our local members. This is about not being lazy and just letting things pass. This is about those things that stir up inside us that say, I should do something about this. This is not okay. It's being unsettled enough to care. And I think this is where God is calling us today. To be men and women who care. To look at some of the statements or some of the political changes that take place. You know, things like changes to our welfare system. But we embrace some care workers to actually engage with people who don't have enough money. We said we want to care. We want to right this wrong. In Psalm 82, verses 3 and 4, it says, give justice to the poor and the orphan, uphold the rights of the oppressed and destitute, and rescue the poor and helpless, them from the grasp of evil people. We need to stand for injustice. And Psalm 11, verse 7 says, for the Lord is righteous. He loves justice. The upright will see his face. So we need to speak truth. We need to right wrong. We need to care about that which care when other people are falling through the cracks. And the last one, right wrong, or speak truth, right wrong, and honour the King. Speak truth, right, wrong, honour the King. So what does that look like for us? What does honouring the King look like? I think it speaks about never forgetting who is the governor and ruler. Who is actually on control? Who do we bow down to? Keeping God in his rightful place. And that is why it's important for us to come together and celebrate on Sundays. It's about taking this time out of everything else and saying, rightful place again today. See, I'm sure that I'm not alone here, but I know I get good at running on my own strength. I can actually do it pretty well for a while. But I know what happens over time when I start running on my own strength rather than honouring the King. That over time, my ways are not always God's ways. That my focus changes. That my ways aren't always God's ways. So when I take the eyes off the King and start running on Craig's strength, there can become a shift in focus, a change in mission, or a step away from God's plan. Honouring the King in worship, in prayer, in reading my Bible helps me to keep God in his rightful place, Lord over all of me. That's why we honour the King. It keeps him in his rightful place as Lord over all of me. And I know that things go better when I surrender to his will. So it's not only giving him his place, but things go better when I surrender to his will. Isaiah 55, verse 8 and 9. For my thoughts are not your thoughts. This is God speaking to us. For my thoughts are not your thoughts. Neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. And as the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. What is this saying? We can't figure it all out on our own. We can't suggest to know what God knows. Honouring the King is about knowing him and allowing him to have that place. So, Knights of the Round Table. What does that mean for us today? You know, we had some powerful testimonies before. And what stood out to me was this picture, and he used his hand where Jeremy said God was distant, but then he came close. What felt far away became personal. And I think that there might be people here today, and it might be the challenge that I gave to the men at the beginning. It might be that there was something said in one of those testimonies. Or it might be that you can feel a divide between the idea of speaking truth, righting wrong, and honouring the King. And the God who may have felt a little distance is actually coming close to you. So the musicians are going to come up, and I know that time has been, but you know what? Money can't buy the moment we are in. I often say, if you want to know what heaven's like, you come here at 9:30 on a Sunday morning. So this is our opportunity to just spend a little bit of time in heaven, to allow God to have his place. It's an opportunity for that God who may for you just feel a little distant to come that little bit closer. Or it might be that something you've heard or a message that's been given has spoken directly to your heart, and there's something that you need to reconcile this morning. Well, then what we do, and sometimes the best way to reconcile that is just to come and submit again, to make a public declaration and just come and kneel. If you want, you can pray by yourself, or someone can come and pray with you. Because let me tell you, there is something powerful when you're prepared to get out of your seat and honour the Lord by surrendering before him again. So there might be people this morning as we sing that just need to again honour the King. And if you want to do that, then you come forward. The idea of speaking truth might be something where you go, yeah, you know what? I need to put that back into place. Or something that was where God felt far away has come close. We're just going to sing this together prayerfully. This song. And the chorus says, I stand with arms wide and heart abandoned. It's a position of surrender. So as we sing, let's allow God to have his way. And if that means you need to come again, well then do that now. Let's just prayerfully sing this together.